What is going on, IKers? We are back today with another video, and we're going to be taking a look at the patch 1.0 version notes that were recently released about 5 days ago. And I'm going to try and go through this so we can cover as much of the notes as we can while doing some brief detail touches on some of the topics. So let me start first with territory decorations, right? This is just an increased theme decoration for your city that you can now get a VIP 15, right, for the Shadow Dragon theme. They have a zone theme territory decoration, which is the Forbidden Zone Sovereign. And then the Spring Fiesta, right? So additional city theme decorations. I'm always a big fan of cosmetic additions to any game. I think it's good value that you can get outside of spending for any kind of resource or in-game. Custom avatars. Another big plus, right? I think people are always happy to see some more custom avatars because it just gives players a little bit more options to personalize, which, again, I think is a good win. Then we have optimization for Titan Tula. Now, Titan Tula, what they did before is you had one spider boss, you go to that one location, and now what they did is they just split the boss up into 3 clones that share the same HP bar. What I will say is there's a couple things here to take note of, right, in addition to the better rewards that they have. Now, I have heard from some people that the rewards before the update were a little better, but I also think that the rewards are also in relation to the increased difficulty of defeating the Titan Tula boss. And that could just be because the HP bar was raised. Maybe they just added some stats onto it. So there's 2 parts here, right? You have one part of players that feel as though the HP bar is increased a little bit too much, and that maybe it should be something that kind of scales with the progression of the kingdom, and maybe like the average player level, something to that extent. And then the other side of it is that over time, even though what it seems to be is they may have raised it as a flat HP increase, over time, as every player's troop power or primary troop increases its power, you will eventually be able to start killing or defeating the Titan Tula bosses easier, right? And it won't be as difficult. Because I know for us, on our last event, I don't even think we defeated some of the later Titan Tula bosses. So just something to take note of. Contention of Relics is the next thing. And this is lowered entry requirements, right? This is for Chronicles 14, 17, and 20, which are the capital city requirements. And you can see these here if you go to Chronicle 14, even though ours hasn't opened yet, right? This is when you capture a provincial capital. 14 is for level 5 provincials, 17 is level 7 provincial capitals, and 20 is level 9. And essentially, again, as we said, once these are done, then you'll have the lower entry levels for starting Contention of Relics, and they also adjusted the phase length to make it shorter, which I still think is a win, right? And I can show you real quick Contention of Relics, which is here on server 5. Essentially, it's just capturing the middle level 9 cities or structures, which is here in the Forbidden Zone. These are all relics, and then you also have guardians that'll pop up here you can attack to get extra energy. And then when you win, you just get some really good reward payouts. So that's kind of what's going on at the moment. And then, oh wow, I didn't even know that I had stuff to click on. Oh wow. It's always cool when you have stuff to click on, even though this has nothing to do with the video that I'm making right now. And this is probably just the fact that I have something to click on for why I'm doing it. Okay, fantastic. Let's move on. So now we have raised Guardian rewards. So let's talk about that. Added extra damage rewards, the amount of which is proportional to damage dealt. Players will be able to get more from the Chaos Beast than ever before. You will never return empty-handed. So this is what some people were talking about, is like just higher difficulty for some of the Guardians. I don't know if maybe it was a bug for a couple people that reported it, but I know I have heard some saying that they do seem a little bit more difficult. Energy cube output, reprogrammed the output of energy cubes to make it more balanced. I'm not sure what people have been experiencing here yet. And again, I want to say that for any of the topics that I touch on here in the notes, I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Whether you agree or you disagree with any of the perspectives that I provide, or even if it's just adding some context to some areas maybe we don't have enough information on from the player experience, I would still love to hear, because I think it is all, in the end of the day, good feedback. Adjusted Mysterious Shop. The shelves of the Mysterious Shop have been reorganized and a number of attractive items have been stocked. So this is cool. If this is something that is more of a buff, or we see some additional variety of items from the Mysterious Shop when you're doing Mysterium, I think can always be a plus. Kingdom Supply, better supply, added an extra buff for every kind of supply. I don't think you can necessarily go wrong here. Balance changes. This is going to be a big section that we talk about. The developers have made the following balance adjustments. Immortal skill, Arminius, reduce all damage received, has now been updated to reduce all physical damage received. Reduce damage taken, even though this has seen a buff, the compensation, I don't think, it's like you're giving it a plus 5% buff for arguably a 50% debuff, because now you're not reducing damage for magic, right? So you're basically doing half of it and then only mitigating it about 5%. So again, I'm not sure. This seems to be more of an overall debuff, right? Which again, I'm really just pointing out my observations. I'm not necessarily vouching for whether or not it should have been changed or not. Just trying to give some clarification on how the adjustment is going to play out. Tower of Knowledge Demon Body, trigger rate is seeing going from 10 to 7, Will of Angels 10 to 7, and then we have Rage, all your troops, now it's 3 random troops, duration has been decreased, so a little bit of a debuff on some of these. 3 random enemy troops, now it's all enemies for energy suppression, so this seems to be a buff here on that skill. Mysterium, reform the reward structures, enrich the variety of rewards, and reduce gold output to balance out your adventurer's experience. So I'm iffy here, because Mysterium, I don't think they should have touched gold. Gold is one of the scarcest resources in the game right now, and has been since release, so being able to get more gold, I think, is always going to be a benefit. So I can't say on if I agree with this, just because of the way that the game plays out, and how difficult it already is to get gold, but we'll see. And then we have Alliance Technology. So this is a big one. I want to touch on this for a moment, because it says to prevent unbalanced Alliance development, the Alliance Technology level will be limited to Alliance level. So what this means is that, and I'll give you an example. Our Alliance is level 6. If I go into Technology, you will notice that here we were able to get our big family to 8 before the update hit, but you'll see if I click on it, after the Alliance level reached level 7, big family is able to upgrade to 7, right? So what that means is that I now have to get my big family arguably to 9 before I can upgrade this to 9, right? And that means that we now have to invest tech into, or invest donations into other technology, right, in order to get to level 9. Now, it's going to take a while to do that. Now, before the update, you could upgrade any tech you wanted to, right, to max level 10 out of 10. As long as your Alliance, as long as you had the technology unlocked from your current Alliance level, you could. What this meant is that you could increase your member capacity to 150, arguably within the first 2 weeks, right? First 2, maybe 3 weeks of a server. This was extremely big because it allowed for you to bring in more players, and because you could bring in more players, you could then take cities faster, your Alliance could develop technology faster, you could progress the server chronicles faster. So because of the update, now things are just slower paced. And if this is the way that the developers intended for the game to be, then obviously I think this is an appropriate adjustment, right? It's not as though they really debuffed anything, right? They just basically lined up some of the way that you're developing your Alliance technology to be to scale more appropriately. But again, most players would probably look at this and say, wow, this is an extremely big change compared to how the game has been played, right, for the past, 10 months or so since Server 1. So again, right, the thing I will say is that the way that they've updated this is more in line with other kingdom builders I have played, right? I always thought it was an extremely big benefit to be able to upgrade your techs and max them one at a time to 10, because you would usually do it in a priority order. And so, again, I do think that this is, in the long run, going to be more of a benefit, because, as I said, it is similar to how other games Alliance technology is ran as well. But, with that being said, it is going to slow down the overall pace of a server, which means it's going to take longer to take higher level cities. Chronicles is going to take a little bit longer to develop as well. It's going to take longer for members to increase member capacity, which means that now there's going to be more alliances at lower capacity levels when a server starts out that are all going to be vying. So you're going to have more competition as well. So I don't necessarily know if I see that as a pro or a con, but if it's more activity overall on the server, I guess it's still a good thing. So we'll see, again, how it develops. But those are just some of my initial thoughts on the Alliance technology portion. Nobility system. We can talk about now, which is going to be fine-tune the honor required to achieve some titles. So I'm not sure yet if this is something that has been improved to where it's easier now to hit some of the higher level titles with reductions or maybe just scaling so you get more honor as you attack higher level players. But if it is in any way, shape, or form a buff or an easier road to higher level titles, then I do take that as a win. Fix the market refresh bug to restore balance of immortal soul crystal output. That's great. Always happy to see that. Reduce the rate of gold production in all capitals. So, let me touch. Okay, excuse me. Sorry. Not mean. People are going to be like, yeah, no. So, let me touch on this real quick for the gold reduction and cities. Now, I want to talk and share a little history here because this is something that capitals have seen quite a big change over the time. And what they've seen is that capitals, at one point, actually were giving you building and research speed up percentages, right? They recently changed this to immortal attacks, but before it was research and building. Now, I loved that. I actually thought that that was a great buff that you got from the capital buildings, right, was being able to increase your personal research and your building development speeds from having some of these capital cities, right? They now changed it to Immortal Attack, and I'm still iffy on it. I mean, of course, if something like Server vs. Server, Kingdom vs. Kingdom comes out, then yeah, I do think that is a good thing. And now I know in other games, they do allow for some cities to increase research and building speed times. So I do think that I'm just a big heavy favorite of having some cities be those, in my opinion. But they changed it to Immortal Attack. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a change, different for what they might be going for long term. So we'll see how that plays out. The other thing that they changed is they reduced the rate of gold production. Again, right, so if you think about they reduced gold rate from Mysterium, they reduced gold rate from cities. Gold is already one of the most finite resources in the game. There's limited ways that you can acquire gold. I personally feel that this is a debuff, and even though it is, and I'm stating the obvious there, is I do think that gold should be a little bit easier to get, right? And so, in my opinion, I would love to see, eventually, maybe in the next update, right, then maybe return to what the previous gold numbers were per hour for capitals, right, re-increase the gold that you get from Mysterium, just because it's already finite, right? It's so difficult to acquire it. Those are just my thoughts on it. Again, let's go into art, and then the last thing is just art optimization that we have, right, which is for Titan Tula and then Dragons, right? So that kind of covers our version 1.0 update. As I said before, guys, I would love to hear what you think about anything that I touched on, anything that I covered here in the v1.0 patch notes review. And I would also love to hear if you've had any personal dealings with any of the topics that we talked about. I would love to hear your feedback, and if you're able to provide it in somewhat of a constructive way, or like an outline or something that really kind of details out, because these are things that I would love to eventually share with any of the IK, with any of the IK people that are on the official Discord, or maybe even for us to put together something that's kind of nice and organized as kind of like a feedback outline from the community. I think it's one thing that we really have the ability to do, especially if we can really collect feedback as far as accumulated from multiple players. So again, I'd love to hear what you guys think. As always, you guys can find IK resources, a link to our server Discord in the description down below. And until next time, take care, I guess. Peace.